It was May of 1885, and the cornerstone was laid on this very beautiful building. Maybe some of you are old enough to have seen, not the cornerstone laying, okay? But maybe you saw the building, because in September 9th of 1885, the cornerstone was laid, and dedication was September 26th, 1888. This, on the building on the left-hand side there, this was Grand Rapids City Hall. How many of you remember Grand Rapids City Hall when it looked like this? All right, a few of you. I don't remember this. I was not even alive at this point in time. And the reason why was because in 1969, it was decided this building no longer fit who we are as a growing city. We were trying to move into a place where we could have better urban spaces and whatever it was going to take. And so as a result, in 1969, it was finally determined that we're going to tear this building down. And so they brought the wrecking ball out, and they decided this no longer fits us. So what was the masterpiece in 1888 when it was dedicated? They had hired the best architects and the best contractors and the best materials. And all it took was a wrecking ball to tear the whole thing down. It was interesting because there on this wrecking ball, and a lady by the name of Mary Stiles, and I know it looks like Miley Cyrus a little bit, right? Maybe some of you are thinking this. I'm not sure. Anyway, you're singing the song right now, I'm sure. But anyway, Mary Stiles hops on the wrecking ball and she says, "No, you can't tear our tower down. You need to save our tower. You need to save this." And so she literally chains herself to the wrecking ball. And they went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And finally they convinced her, if we would be willing to take you up on the wrecking ball and give you a view of the panorama of the city, would you be willing to get off? And she says, yes. So sure enough, they took her up, showed her the city, and she came down a changed woman, I guess. And then she got off and the building collapsed. And now we have City Hall downtown. Beautiful building, isn't it, that we have downtown? But here's the truth. There's a day that's going to come, I'm sure, when somebody's going to look at that building and says, that building no longer fits who we are. We're going to tear that building down so that we can build a new one. And then they're going to build a new one. And guess what? Probably at some point, that new building, they're going to see that that building no longer fits who we are. And then they're going to tear that building down and they're going to build a new one. Do you get the progression here? This building was a masterpiece. It was the pride and joy. And yet somebody comes along a few years later and says, no longer pride and joy, it's time to go. Has there been something in your life, maybe a grandparent had something, that maybe to that grandparent it was really, really, really special? And that grandparent had that, and it was so special to them, but as you maybe have it passed down to you, maybe you're looking at it going, not very special. And it ends up in the trash heap. I was just talking to a grandma this past week. And she was commenting about how she has a house full of stuff. A house full of stuff. It's a big house. A house full of stuff. And she says to her kids, hey, what do I have that any of you would like? Of all of her children, one of the kids said, I have two things. And that was it. A table and a chair. The house full of stuff. And where's it going to end up? Garage sale? Goodwill? The dump? Facebook Marketplace? I say this stuff to you because I want you to get a picture of what we're trying to get across here in the book of Ecclesiastes. And that is, life without God is broken. It's also a desire to bring all of you into a state of depression. That's my goal in this whole series, because I think that's what Solomon was trying to do. Trying to bring all of us into a state of depression where we would wonder, why do we keep going? Why do we keep living? Now, hopefully as we go through the series, you're not going to end up that way. But the truth is, I want you to feel it. I want you to stay there. Because if you don't feel this, if you don't feel the weight of it, if you don't feel the weight of the futility, we miss what the writer of Ecclesiastes was trying to accomplish. And that is showing us that without God, life really is broken. It is. And yet Christians and non-Christians alike experience this. We experience it. Last week, Pastor Brandon did a phenomenal job on the message, and if you don't have a chance to listen to it, if you haven't had a chance, I would really strongly encourage you to go back and listen to it, because I think he did a great job with it. And he set the table for this whole entire series by giving us a few things. And there were 3 warnings that he gave us from the book of Ecclesiastes, and that is this: life is futile. Life as we see it is futile. We're going to talk about that today. Life is futile. Wisdom is limited. And death is certain. So in case you didn't have in case you had too much fun last week, too much excitement, you're too happy today, go back and listen to last week's sermon, because it'll really bring you down to where you need to be, you know. It'll make you feel all these sort of things. Remember, life is futile, wisdom is limited, and death is certain. But if we're willing to embrace some of these things, if we're willing to acknowledge and say, you know what, I'm going to allow myself to sit there for a little bit and allow myself to process, it will help you hopefully look at your life and the lives of others around you a little bit differently and allow you to take some things into account that will hopefully change the way you live. So last week we looked at how life without God is broken. And this week I want to actually continue the same thing. In fact, my theme for this week is this: life without God is broken. It is. And so we're going to go in and we're going to look at some things, and we're going to go through Ecclesiastes. I almost said Ephesians. I'm so used to it. Ecclesiastes chapter 1. If you want to turn there, please. I'm just going to do a brief little recap of a few items in hopes that you hear this and can maybe understand the context of the book a bit in case you weren't here last week or in case you were sleeping at that moment when Pastor Brandon said this. Verse 1, the words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. All right, so really quick, the word teacher there is the Hebrew word kohelet, and it literally just means teacher, okay? That's kind of the idea. It's the instructor. And so what the writer of Ecclesiastes is saying is, I, as a teacher, am going to teach you some things. And he identifies himself as the teacher. He never truly names himself. He gives clues. He says things like son of David, king in Jerusalem, some of those things. He gives some clues, but he never really says, I am this. When we go to other books of the Bible, oftentimes they will identify themselves. I, Paul, write this in my own hand, or whatever. We read. My name is Luke, and I'm writing this to Theophilus. So sometimes we get this. In this book, we don't see it. History, scholarship has attributed this by and large to King Solomon, because it says here, the words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. But there are others who are referred to themselves as son of David. In fact, Jesus himself refers to himself as the son of David. So just because it says son of David, it doesn't mean that I'm literally the son. It means I'm a descendant. I'm a descendant of David. He says king in Jerusalem, but there were also other kings. So this very well could be other guys. There could be different authors of this. My personal feeling is I think Solomon best fits the situation. I think it best fits the information. So you're going to find me, even in the sermon today, you're going to find me referring this to Solomon. But I want you to know it's possible there are other writers to this, okay? But the same principle is, whether it's Solomon or not Solomon, it's somebody who had unbelievable access to wisdom, power, money, women, whatever the situation was, because this is a book that says, I truly have been there, I've done that, I've gotten the t-shirt, and it ain't all it's cracked up to be. That's really what the book is all about. So allow me to help you, who has experienced it all, to be able to come back and say, yeah, I saw the end of the road. There's no gold at the end of that rainbow, okay? Allow that. He goes on, he says, verse 2, meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Once again, I think Pastor Brandon did a really good job of talking about this last week, because the word there, meaningless, almost appears to be without purpose. There's literally nothing. Just end it all. It's done. But the word there in Hebrew actually is the word havel. And havel means vapor or smoke. Okay? It means vapor or smoke. So if you see vapor or you see smoke, now try to grab it. How do you grab smoke? The smoke is coming up, and how do you grab it? You know, it's like hugging your shadow. How do you hug your shadow? You can't. You can grab at it. It's not that it's meaningless. It's just it's a vapor. There's something I can't wrap my brain around it. It's mysterious. I can't. It's there. I see it. I know it's real. I see the smoke. I can experience it, but I can't wrap my brain around it. And that's what the writer here is saying. I believe that's what Solomon is saying here. He's saying meaningless, meaningless. Havel, havel, says the teacher. Everything is utterly havel. It's so hard to wrap my brain around it. Because he says with life. And then he goes on in verse 3. What does man gain from all of his labor at which he toils under the sun? My message this morning is called Laboring in Circles. Laboring in circles. How many of you worked hard this past week? Yeah, you feel like you worked hard. Maybe for some of you, you worked hard and there's a sense of satisfaction. Why? Because maybe you got a big paycheck. You got that big paycheck that was like, ooh, man, we want to reward you for all the work. And you feel like you got something from it. But for those of you who have a job where you worked hard, did you know that Monday is coming tomorrow? And you get to do this all over again tomorrow. Isn't that exciting? I mean, it's just awesome. Maybe for some of you, you don't have a job. You know, you just get to enjoy life. You get to sit there on the couch because you're retired and watch all the TVs and all the thousands of channels that just come for free now. It's crazy. I get to experience all of life. And did you know that Monday morning is going to come again? And you're going to wake up and you're going to do the same thing again. But probably because you're retired, you might have another ache that you didn't have yesterday. Maybe there's going to be that knee that every once in a while flares up. It's going to do it again for you tomorrow. And you're going to be like, what is going on with this? I thought I was going to get to the end and everything was going to be great. No, instead I'm laboring in circles. I just keep coming back. You know, the clothing styles that were in style today, tomorrow, they're not going to be. It's really interesting. We've got some young people living in our home, which is awesome. And so we were told about some words that we get to use, that we can use to be able to be one of the cool kids, you know, one of the young people. You know, words like Riz and some of these others. And see, we got to talk about some of these things. And unfortunately, what I found out was what was in style now, the kids have already moved on. And I thought I was going to be cool. And I realized I'm not. We're just going in circles. See, there was a day when I was cool. There was a day. I'm not sure when. Literally not sure when, but there was a day. Laboring in circles. It just keeps going. It keeps going. It keeps going. And it feels like work. Because that's kind of what life is. And if we separate from God, if we don't keep an eternal perspective, it's so easy to go into just a worldly perspective, a horizontal perspective. And life marches on. And I face every day. And I keep getting up and trying to do the same thing. And I get ahead one day and then I fall behind the next day. Why can't I get any satisfaction, as the theologian Mick Jagger said? Why? Why can't I get any satisfaction? We're going to talk about that next week, actually. But for this week, we're going to keep going in Ecclesiastes chapter 1. He says this thing here, what does man gain from all of his labor at which he toils under the sun? That phrase, under the sun, is going to keep showing up over and over and over and over again, okay? Under the sun is the perspective that Solomon, or the author, whoever he is, that Solomon is using to look at life. He is saying, I'm not going to allow myself to think from this perspective. I'm going to look at everything from a under the sun perspective. Everything that happens in this world. I'm going to look at it from this perspective and see if I can find meaning, to see if I can find purpose, to see if I can find hope. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at everything from the perspective of being under the sun. Okay? So that phrase is going to show up a lot, but that shapes what we're looking at. And so he goes on here in verse 1. Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. When's the last time you were near a cemetery? I love looking at cemeteries. I love it. And I always try to see where the oldest tombstone is. You know, you go to some of the tombstones. Now, here in America, we don't have really old tombstones, okay? We don't have really old tombstones. But over in other places of the world, they have really old tombstones. I remember when I was in Israel, and they're on the side of the mountain, which would have been on the side where, like the Mount of Olives. But here's the side of the hill, and then you'd go down the Kidron Valley, and then here was the temple. And all on this hillside, there was tombs. Not like caskets, like vaults. That's what they were. And so what you get to do is you get to go along, and when you die, they will open one of these up and put you in. But they leave you there for a little while. And then in time, there's only so much real estate there, so then they'll come along and move you out of the way, and then they'll put the next person in there. And then they'll put the next person in there. Why? Because generations come and generations go. But the earth remains forever. The cycle just keeps going. Verse 5, the sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. Such a weird description of that, isn't it? The word literally is panting. It pants. That's the word here. The sun rises and the sun sets and pants back to where it rises, as if it was struggling to go around. You know, I'm tired. Okay, come back again. And then it goes and back again. That's the picture, as it just goes around and around and around. Now we go to the wind. Verse 6, the wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. My good buddy Doug down in the front, we run together. And it's kind of the running joke that we run. You know, we walk out of the door, we're like, okay, let's go for a run. Which way is the wind blowing? So we get out there and we look at the wind and we don't look at it. I feel the wind, okay? I have a spiritual sense, I can see it. But anyway, we go out and we feel the wind and it's coming from maybe the west. And so we're like, okay, well that means when we're still in good physical shape, we're going to run into the wind so that on our way back, we get the wind at our back. So we head out into the wind. And then we turn around to come back. Never fails. Wind is right at our face again. It just never fails. The wind turns wherever you're going. Whatever the wind you don't want it to do, that's what it's going to do. It's just frustrating. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. Verse 7, all streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. Have you thought about that? The water continues. Now, Solomon did not understand about some of the things that we understand, meteorologically, I could say that. He didn't understand the cycles of all the rain and everything like this, but you know that the clouds come and grab it. It pulls it up into this thing. It goes up there, falls down as rain, falls down as snow, collects up there in the mountains, and then it runs down from the hills wherever it goes back into it. And this cycle just continues. Here in Michigan, we hate this cycle in the winter. Okay, I hate this cycle in the winter. Thank you. Okay. Verse 8. All things are wearisome. More than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. Isn't that so true? Like, have you ever been to a place, like, you go to a place, say like the Grand Canyon, or something majestic, something like that. Maybe it's a sunset, and you're just like, okay, gouge my eyes out. I've seen enough. That's the last I ever need to see. I am now satisfied. Instead, what do? You take pictures because you want to remember that. But even still, the picture never does justice, does it? And so you go and you see this unbelievable sight, and you're like, this was amazing. I wish I could just remember it this way, because give it a little bit of time and you forget. The eye never has enough of seeing. The ear never has enough of filling. Maybe you go to a concert and you hear beautiful music, and the music is just so good, and you're like, oh, it's like I was just in heaven. But the next day you want to hear it again, don't you? Why? Because the ear never has enough of its filling. Verse 9, what has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. Now, let's stop there for a second. Are you telling me that they had iPhones back then? Is that what you're telling me? Solomon had iPhones? I don't think that's what he's getting at. Here's the truth. The iPhone is made of materials that were created however many years ago by God. There is nothing we have today that is not using something that was created 6,000, 7,000 years ago. Nothing. Everything we have is simply taking materials, resources, whatever it is, putting it together in a different form so that we have something. Maybe using resources that they hadn't thought about using in the past. But they put it together so that they can experience it in a different way. Even Thomas Edison recognized that when he created electricity. He said, all I'm doing is taking the materials and allowing them to be brought to a way that people can experience it today. Even Thomas Edison understood this. And so I think for you and for me, we look and we're like, oh, we want new, we want new, we want new, we want new. And Solomon says, there's nothing new under the sun. At the end of the day, your search for newness, your search for the latest cell phone, your search for the new job, your search for the latest technological advancement, whatever it is really is a futile search, because there is nothing really that's new. So when we're looking for satisfaction, when we're looking for life and meaning and purpose behind the creation of something new, my life will be happy if. I'll be satisfied if. Instead, Solomon would say, you got the wrong perspective. You got the wrong perspective. He keeps going in verse 11. There is no remembrance of men of old, and even those who are yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow. It's been said by some, I want to leave a legacy. Maybe you've even heard songs about that. Maybe it's like, I want to leave a legacy. I want to live in such a way that generations from now they're still talking about me. I mean, there are a few people. I think of Abraham Lincoln. I think of George Washington. I think of Martin Luther King. I think there are some people that we still talk about them. But there's also people that we still talk about today. Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin. Some of these people that have done horrific things in this world, we still talk about them. But yet, do we really know them? No, we simply know what history tells us about them. How many people have come and gone, and they don't even think a thing about them? When I think of my own life, if I were to fast forward, let me tell you, this book of Ecclesiastes has got me thinking. I'm 51 years old this year. I know I don't look a day over 40. I get it. I understand that. But truly I am. I can show you. 51 years old this year. And I'm thinking to myself, how many more years till I retire? Praise God for youth like Brandon. And youth like Mark are going to carry on in ministry wherever it is, whether it's here at Frontline or someplace else. They're going to continue on. But one day, those guys are going to get old. And I know, not you, Brandon. And one day, they're going to retire. And they're going to hand that mantle on to the next person. I remember when I was one of the young pastors in our fellowship. I remember that. I no longer fit that bill anymore. Now I can say, wow, that's depressing. Or I can realize, this is just what happens with life. Life moves on. In fact, some would say life is monotonous. You see, one of the examples that Solomon gives in this thing as to why life without God is broken is because life is monotonous. It just keeps going. We have spring, and we're living in it. Yes, I love spring. Why? Because I know summer's coming. I know it's coming, and I can't wait for summer. But I know after summer, what do we get? Fall. I love fall, but I can't allow myself to enjoy fall as much because I know what's coming. Because I know it's winter. And I hate the winter. But I know spring is coming. And I'm like, oh, thankfully, Lord, yes. And then we get to summer, but I can't enjoy fall because winter's coming. It's monotonous. I was out mowing my grass this past week. Mowing my grass. My lawnmower is dead. I can't get it to run. I had to order parts. I'm having to borrow the neighbor's lawnmower. They have push mowers. I have a rider. So I'm pushing my mower through the lawn, and I'm seeing the grass. I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. I love green grass. I love mowing my grass. I love it. I really do enjoy it. I'm pushing my lawnmower, and I'm going along, and things are going well until I realize, man, I'm going to be mowing this thing again in 4 days. Why? Because I paid some guy to put fertilizer on my lawn. And the rain keeps coming, and I'm like, all right. I'm going to cancel fertilization. I'm going to cancel this because I don't want to mow my grass so much. And then I realize, if I stop fertilizing my lawn and the rain stops, I'm going to have a yard full of weeds. And then I'm going to have to mow weeds, and that's going to be really depressing because my once beautiful lawn is going to turn to weeds. And then I'm like, I guess I'm going to have to keep mowing. Or I'm going to get a goat. Maybe if I get a goat, that'll help me. Then I won't have to mow, and I'll let the goat take care of this thing. And then I realize the goat's going to leave a mess. And then I'm going to have more children to take care of the mess that the goat's going to leave behind. And then I'm going to have to feed those children. And I just need to accept mowing. Life without God is broken. It's monotonous. Can I get any amens to any of this? Are you guys feeling this? All right. So we move on. All right. How many of you are depressed? Any? Okay. Another example of brokenness is the emptiness of wisdom. The emptiness of wisdom. He goes on in verse 12. I, the teacher, was king over Israel and Jerusalem. I think this is one of the clearest references to the fact that it is Solomon. Because he says, I, the teacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem. He was king over Israel. The nation had still not divided yet. And he was king in Jerusalem. Verse 13, I devoted myself to study and to explore by wisdom all that is done under heaven. What a heavy burden God has laid on men. I have seen all the things that are done under the sun. All of them are meaningless, a chasing after the wind. What is twisted cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. I thought to myself, look, I have grown and increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ever ruled over Jerusalem before me. I have experienced much of wisdom and knowledge. Then I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom and also of madness and folly. But I learned that this too is a chasing after the wind. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. Trust me, it only gets better as we go through the whole book. I'm just telling you, it only gets better. It's really depressing. The end of the book is where it all comes together, but we don't have that too much time to do this all in 1 week, every single week. So what I want you to understand, though, is apart from God, without God, even wisdom is empty. Because he says, it's like a chasing after the wind. Then I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom, verse 17, and also of madness and folly, but I learned that this too is a chasing after the wind. It's trying to grasp the wind. Oh, there is the wind blowing. I'm going to grab it. And I can't get it. It's empty. It's missing something. But for so much of us, we're trying to better understand things. I'm trying to better understand how to be a dad. I'm trying to better understand how to be a husband. I'm trying to better understand how to be a pastor. Almost by thinking, if I can just wrap my brain completely around it, then I'll be the perfect dad. I'll be the perfect husband. I'll be the perfect pastor. But Solomon would say, even that is a striving after the wind. You'll never catch it. You'll never get it. We don't have time to go here. But it was very interesting because if we remember back to Solomon, you see, another reason why I think this is Solomon is because Solomon truly was, based on what the Bible tells us, the wisest man who ever lived. Why? Because God gave him his wisdom. God literally gave him his wisdom. If you remember in 1 Kings chapter 3, you see the references up there. You don't have to turn there, or if you want to, you can. But Solomon was asked, hey, what would you like? God says to Solomon, you could have anything you want. What would you like? And Solomon says, you know what I would like? I would like to have wisdom. You see, history tells us that Solomon was probably 20 years old, somewhere around in that area, when he became king over Israel. Can you imagine your 20-year-old that you know becoming king over an entire nation? Mark, how old are you right now? 21. Okay, you're too old. Anybody else who's 20 here? Oh, Aspen. There we go. Aspen, now king over Israel. You ready? Can you imagine at the age of 20 years old, you are now in charge of an entire nation? And so what does Solomon say to God? God, I need wisdom. God tells him, Solomon, because you didn't ask for wealth, riches, fame, I'm going to give you wisdom, and I'm going to give you all these other sort of things. I'm going to give it to you. In fact, the Bible tells us God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight, and a breadth of understanding as measureless as the sand on the seashore. That's how smart this dude was. His wisdom was greater than the wisdom of all the men of the East and greater than all the wisdom of Egypt. He was wiser than any other man, including Ethan, the Ezrahite, wiser than He-Man. Did you know that he was wiser than He-Man? If you grew up in the 80s, you would know what I'm talking about here. He was wiser than He-Man, and his fame spread to all the surrounding nations. That's how smart this. Men of all nations came to listen to Solomon's wisdom. That's how smart this dude was. Even the Queen of Sheba herself, maybe you've heard that phrase before, even the Queen of Sheba comes to check it all out. And this is what she says. She said to the king, the report I heard in my own country about your achievements and your wisdom is true. But I did not believe these things until I came and I saw them with my own eyes. Indeed, not even a half was told me. In wisdom and wealth, you have far exceeded the report that I heard. Now talk about an ego-stroking moment at this point. How happy your men must be. How happy your officials who continually stand before you and hear your wisdom. Wouldn't you love to hear that? Man, how blessed your family is to be in your presence. How blessed your employees must be to work for you. I hear this all the time. But I mean, how blessed people must be. And we think to ourselves, man, how smart do you have to be to have that kind of accolades? But that's where he was. And even Solomon, when he looks at all this, he puts it together and he says, I've seen all that's been done under the sun, and all of its meaning was a chasing after the wind. What is twisted cannot be straightened. What is lacking cannot be counted. He looked around and he saw the level of dysfunction all around the world. He saw it. And he saw all this dysfunction. And he says, this world is broken. In fact, the more that I study, the more that I understand, the more that I try to see what's going on in the world, the more that I look, all I see is brokenness now. The smarter I become, the more frustrating it is. I tell people that when I went to Grace Bible College, I was a pastor's kid. I knew a lot about the Bible. And when I left Grace, I was dumber than when I went in. You know why I was dumber? Because I found out all the stuff I didn't know. I thought I had a pretty good grasp of the Bible until I went and I studied, and then I realized, wow, there is so much I don't know. I'll tell you, I'm your pastor, and for a lot of you, you're like, wow, he's the Bible answer man. He has all the answers. Trust me, the more I study this thing, the more questions I get. Which is why I have to just sometimes acknowledge, God, I don't know. I trust you. There are things in here that I'm absolutely convinced of. But there's other places where the more I study, the more I'm like, ooh, I'm not sure about that. Solomon here says, with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. You see, life without God is broken. It's monotonous. There's an emptiness, even in something as wise as getting wisdom. So I want to give you just two closing thoughts here in just a couple last minutes. Here's your thoughts. Live every day as a gift to be stewarded. Rather than trying to say, I'm going to figure this life out. I'm going to make the most of this thing. I'm going to do everything I can. Instead, why don't you say, you know what, God, I don't know what tomorrow's going to hold. And if I really start thinking about how bad my life might get in a few years, because as I look at my cancer diagnosis, as I look at my health, as I look at maybe my future, whatever it is, I can get really discouraged. I can get really depressed. But instead of doing that, God, I'm going to simply view today as a gift to be stewarded. Psalm 90 verse 12 says this, so teach us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. God, teach me to number my days. Help me not to live tomorrow yet. God, just help me to steward today. What would you have me to do today? The day that I have. Philippians 4:12 and 13, Paul says these words, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. Verse 13, I can do everything through him who gives me strength. Today is a gift. Lord, help me to steward your gift today. And that's it. Help me to experience that. And then here's the second thought. Let wisdom drive you to God, not away from God. Have you heard the expression before, he's too smart for his own good? Have you ever heard that expression before? There are some people in their pursuit of knowledge, in their pursuit of understanding, their pursuit of all these things, they can become so smart that they actually lose their ability to comprehend. Something that is so obvious to some is completely missed by others. Solomon, as he went through this, he's like, I'm going to try to understand. I'm going to try to wrap my brain around all this. But here's what I want you to see. In the book of Proverbs, it says this, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It's the starting point is this. God, you're God and I'm not. I'm going to start there. And as I pursue wisdom, Solomon doesn't say wisdom is bad. In fact, there's whole books about wisdom. He says, but if you try to pursue wisdom apart from God, it's going to result in emptiness. So I think maybe some of you college students, maybe you high schoolers who are going to be going away to college, you're going to be brought to a place that's going to be maybe led by people who are really smart, who deny the existence of God. Maybe you're being taught by them right now in the schools. They're really smart, and I put that in quotes, because they got a ton of book learning, but they've completely missed the big picture, which is there is no way to explain the world that we live in apart from a creator God. There isn't. And so don't let your pursuit of wisdom, your pursuit of knowledge and understanding drive you to a place where you forget all about God. And so as we close, I want you to see this. 1 Corinthians 15:58. Remember the sermon title was Laboring in Circles. Life feels like work. But see, for us who know Jesus Christ, it doesn't have to. In fact, Paul says these words, therefore, my dear brothers, stand firm. Let nothing move you. Always give yourselves fully to the work of the Lord, because you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. You see, when you live every day as a gift, when you say, God, give me the wisdom I need to steward today, then I can know that even though we live in a futile world, even though we live in a world that seems hopeless at times, I know that the things that I do in my life, when I do it for the glory of God, when I do it for Him, it's not in vain. It's not empty. It's not a chasing after the wind. In fact, there is purpose, there is meaning, and there is joy. And so what's your challenge? It's this. I would like to ask you to pray this prayer this week. Maybe every day, if you think about it. And that would be this. God, please show me how to wisely steward the life you've given me as a gift to be enjoyed for your glory. God, I need your wisdom. I don't know how to do this. I don't want to live this life just to get through it, just to survive. I don't want to live this life trying to find meaning that's not meant to be there. Instead, God, give me the wisdom I need to steward your life that you give me this week, today. May I enjoy it. May it be for your glory and you alone. All right. Let's pray, and then I'm going to ask everybody to come on down front in just a second. God, we thank you. I thank you for your word. I thank you for the privilege that it is to be your child. I thank you for the reminders of this life that we have. God, if we just look at life under the sun, if we look at it apart from you, it feels hopeless. It does. It just feels that way. May we not be caught up in the monotony of life. May we not be distracted by even the pursuit of wisdom. God, in you we have all the treasures of wisdom and understanding. May our pursuit of wisdom drive us to you. May our pursuit of meaning in life and joy in life, may that drive us to you, because truly, God, you are the source of it all. So thank you for this book. Lord, when we don't live it your way, life is fragile, it's broken. But when we get the end right side up, this life is meant to be lived out of your life. When we live that way, God, it is then that we can experience life in all of its wonder, knowing you're in control. So thank you, God, for this time. Thank you for your word. In Jesus' name we pray. And all those in agreement said, amen.